Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Excel video 188 in MoreSolutionInc.com's series on using Excel in medical practice. We're back to the OR start times we had in the last video. Remember, last time we were looking at average start time was 8:19, but it varied on early days. On Monday it started just after 7. It was almost 10 o'clock by the time we started on Friday. And then we said, well, maybe the location has something to do with it. So we looked at the location and said, well, the hospital is about an hour and 15 minutes later in start times than the ASC in this random number example. So we said, all right, let's look into this a little further. Wouldn't it be nice to know if the start time varies by whether or not the case is in the hospital or the ASC on Mondays or Wednesdays or whatever? Last time we used average and AVERAGEIF to look at one set of criteria to make our calculations. What we're going to do today is scroll down just a little bit and play right here. What we have here is an AVERAGEIFS function, which is going to do something very similar to what SUMIFs did and kind of like what COUNTIFs did as well. It's going to let us do multiple criteria. And let's see, let's just kind of drag this out of the way here. Remember, column A from A4 to A103, that's where our start times are. That's what we want to average, so that's my average range. I'm going to put that first. And remember, in the last, let's just go back and look at it for a second. In an AVERAGEIF, if there's only one criteria, it puts the range first, then the criteria, and then the average range. If you're doing multiple criteria, the first thing in this function is always the average range. You tell me what you want me to average, and you can give me a criteria range and a criteria, and another criteria range and another criteria, and you can list those down. It's just in a little bit different order. Make sure you get that straight when you do the difference between AVERAGEIF and AVERAGEIFS, or SUMIF and SUMIFS. That said, our first criteria range, we're going to look at column B. Well, what's column B? Well, that's just the day of the week. And what we want to know here is which day of the week am I looking at. And notice how D19 is this Monday cell right here. Notice how the dollar sign that I got with the F4 key locks in column D. Because what I want to do is I want to copy this formula down, and when I do, I'm going to be fine. And when I copy it over, Excel's going to want to go from column D to column E, and we're going to say, no, we don't want to do that. We always want to look in column D, even if we copy the formula out here to the right. So I'm going to lock in column D and stick with row 19. Second criteria range is I'm going to look at the location, whether it's the hospital or the ASC. That's stored in column C from C4 to C103, so I've locked that range in. And then the criteria here is the hospital or the ASC. You'll see E18 is the hospital. And so what I want to do here is when I copy the formula across from from column D to column E, I'm not too worried about that. Or excuse me, from column E to column F. I'm not worried about the E changing. I want that to change so that when I look at the ASC, I can copy it over, and I want that to go from E18 to F18. That's fine. What I don't want to have change is when I go copy down rows. When I copy from Monday to Tuesday, Excel's going to want to change this for me from 18 to 19. I say, no, I always want to lock in 18 because row 18 is where my criteria is going to be no matter how far down I copy this. So on criteria 1, I locked in the column. I said always look in column D. In criteria 2, I locked in the row. Always look in row 18. With that, I've got a formula now that I can copy this way and this way without changing anything. I get the formula right once, now I've got 10 formulas just because I took the time to lock in the ranges appropriately with dollar signs and the F4 key, and then on the criteria I made sure that I locked in either the column D or the row 18 depending on which way the data was going. All that said and done, what do I know? My average start time is 8:19 and Monday's my best day, and actually look, the hospital is actually better than the ASC in terms of start times. Better, assuming I want to start earlier. Let's put it that way. The hospital starts at 6:59, whereas the average ASC start time is 7:06. But on the other days of the week, you know, it's more than half an hour later on Tuesday, more than an hour later on Wednesday, 45 minutes or so on Thursday, and Friday's just bad all the way around. If you look at the ASC average, it's somewhere between 7 and 8 o'clock, say 7:30-ish here, and it's 9:15 on Fridays. On the hospital, 7, 9, 9, 8. Somewhere that average is nowhere near. I mean, we're at least 2 hours later than than Wednesday, and that's the worst one before Friday. So clearly I've got an issue on Friday, and my data showed that up. I had a 9:58 a.m. start time, but now I can go a little bit further and say, all right, here are the cases that are starting late on Friday. I've got a real problem in the hospital, and I've got a real problem in the ASC, and I can go back and try to fix those. And obviously we could do more analysis if we knew a scheduled start time versus an actual start time. Is the problem that we're getting kicked back? Is the problem that the schedule is late to start with? We can do a lot more kind of analysis and get average ifs back out again with more data once we've got the tool to dig down and slice and dice and figure out what we're trying to analyze. That's SUMIF, SUMIFS, count ifs, and AVERAGEIF. Some powerful tools to do some conditional kind of formulas that would have been a lot harder before these functions were created, but you can do all kinds of analysis now with those three tools. That's what I wanted to show you on those subjects. Stay tuned next time. There's a few more functions in this math and trig that are helpful I want to show you. See you then.